Hey everyone, Evan Kirstel. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah. We're here talking innovation and economic development in the great state of West Virginia with Secretary Carmichael from the wild, woolly world of West Virginia. Secretary, how are you?
I'm great, Evan. How are you this morning?
I'm great. I'm pretty relaxed. I'm feeling like I might be the only one, quote unquote, working, although I don't really view this as work. You look like you might be in an office somewhere as well.
I'm in an office, but I'm very relaxed as well. Just a sweater
Okay.
and just kind of wrapping up a great year for West Virginia.
No, it has been a great year. It's been a fascinating year. People may wonder why I'm here in Massachusetts talking about West Virginia. We'll share some personal anecdotes. I have deep connections with the state, but I'm deep connections with tech, and you guys are on a tear when it comes to economic development, innovation, investment in the state. But before we get into all that, maybe introduce yourself, your role, and a little bit about your background for the viewers.
Yes, thank you very much for having me and to talk about the different events occurring in West Virginia. Again, as you mentioned, my name is Mitch Carmichael, and I'm the secretary, cabinet secretary of economic development in West Virginia. I've had a long history in technology and business in general, but also a very involved career in public service. I have been in the legislative branch of government for a period of time, like almost 2 decades, and I advanced to become the lieutenant governor and Senate president of West Virginia for the previous 4 years. And so Governor Justice tapped me to lead as a new department in West Virginia focused on economic development and broadband expansion. With my background and my experience in both legislative and business world, he felt it was a good fit. And the past 2 years, I hope, have been validation of those sentiments and the fact that West Virginia is on a tear economically and from a broadband expansion perspective.
Well, we're going to dive into both, but let's talk about the last 2 years because it, as an outsider at least, has been quite a phenomenon. Really, a who's who of technology and industry globally and nationally investing in West Virginia. Tell us about the climate, though, before we jump into all the good examples and illustrations. Like, what's going on in the state of West Virginia?
Well, many things. And I think the pandemic has highlighted some of the advantages that maybe were hidden in the past to the business community writ large. Frankly, over the last, and I was in the legislative process while we were doing all the fundamental changes, Evan, that were required to make an economy vibrant and attractive to business. And it's things like civil justice reform, tax reform, education reform, regulatory reform, all of those things that had traditionally been impediments to expanding in West Virginia have been eliminated. In fact, we have now become one of the premier sites in America, frankly, the world, for locating and for business friendliness and quality of life. Those things that businesses look at when making a decision. Furthermore, if I could just elaborate, one of the
Please.
great things about West Virginia is our geographic location. We have this as supply chains have become strained, as transportation costs have been exacerbated. When one locates in West Virginia, you are doing so within basically 2/3 of the North American population, a 500-mile drive. So we are within 500-mile drive of 50% of America's population and 30% of the Canadian population. So when one talks about supply chains, being close to your customers and close to your suppliers, West Virginia, as you can see on this slide, is ideally located. And then we have such a great workforce component. Our This is a great metric that I didn't realize was tracked before I came into this role. The Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks a metric that identifies West Virginia citizens as the most loyal workforce in America in terms
Hmm.
of a retention of a manufacturing job. So, as you can imagine, a manufacturing entity that the world over is having trouble attracting job or attracting workers
Hmm. Hmm.
can now be assured that not only will you have a great workforce in West Virginia, they're going to stick with you at a higher rate than any other place in America. So it's a really great metric, and we have great transportation network that can reach these customers and supply chains. And I know I'm probably talking too much. I'll let you ask a question.
No, I,
But we
I I
have an
love hearing all
opportunity,
this.
yeah,
And
to elaborate on those advantages that West Virginia brings to bear. Maybe I just go into one other that uh,
sure.
attracts the workforce and attracts businesses to West Virginia is the fact that we are one of, and as few as 10 states, we are one of 10 that provides no cost community and technical college education to every citizen in West Virginia.
Wow, I did not know that.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a great initiative, and we go through the process of pulling down all the federal funds for our for those students and so forth. But we also require, as you know, it's no cost, but it's not free. You have to submit to a drug test because the goal here is to create a workforce that's ready, willing, and able to go to work. So drug-free workforce. Then you must learn the advantages of giving back to the community. So we
Hmm.
require 200 hours of community service.
Oh, wow.
Uh, so
Wonderful.
when we want to teach that metric of give and take, and that you play it forward, and so you create that mindset within our population that, hey, we receive a benefit, I want to give back. And then you have to live and work in West Virginia for a period of 2 years, or pay it back. So
I love
it's
that. I mean, it's there's a real risk of brain drain and of your best and brightest heading off to well, anywhere, DC, Maryland, other states. So
yeah,
yeah, keeping that talent local and building businesses, building families, such a great opportunity. And we'll come back to some of the thoughts on the people of the state who I know
well,
very
before
well.
we leave this, though, I want to ask
Yeah.
you about your experience in West Virginia. I understand that perhaps you've had some time spent in our
Yeah,
wonderful
pretty much
almost
all
heaven.
I grew up in Maryland, but pretty much all my childhood through college, I spent weekends and summers at our family cabin up in Berkeley Springs, and
Oh, that's
tell you,
great.
getting away from the city, Baltimore, where I grew up, out into the mountains and streams and farms and hills and hiking, and just exploring as a kid
Yeah.
with no technology, no phones, no gadgets, no television. That was quite an experience. So these days, everyone's trying to disconnect our,
Yeah.
their connections, and at that time, it was the ultimate in disconnecting. So, I mean, we're going to talk economies, but what a beautiful place to travel, to camp, to RV, to hike, to fish, to hunt. I mean, so all that stuff was part of my upbringing, and I have fond
That's great,
memories.
great way to grow up. And you're so right. Our state is so beautiful, and people that have been here, much like you, have experienced the great outdoors and the beauty and the wonder of nature, have a desire to come back. And that's part of the attraction, really, frankly, from a technology and business perspective, is that people have reoriented their lives to get. It's very safe. Our communities are
Mhm.
very safe. We have been social distancing for a long time in West Virginia, and yeah, it's a great place to be. Thank you for the compliment. In fact, you say Berkeley County. We just announced a Fortune 500 company, Steelmaker, one of the largest recycling companies in the world, locating in Berkeley County. 2 weeks ago, we announced it. Commercial Metals Corporation decided on Berkeley County, West Virginia, for the location of their most advanced steel manufacturing plant in their entire network.
That is amazing. Well, I didn't think we made steel in the U.S. anymore, so it's
Oh
good.
yeah, we're making it big time in West Virginia.
Well, that's great. So, I mean, this is a snapshot of the different types of businesses, and it's so diverse. It's not just manufacturing; it's high tech, it's defense, aerospace, and space, transportation, and all of these companies, big and small, part of this package of opportunities and benefits that you've made obvious. Tell me about some of the companies, maybe some of the anecdotes of some of these players, because you mentioned Nucor, that was a huge one.
Yeah.
But with these come jobs and investment and infrastructure as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. These are some of the wins that West Virginia has obtained over the last year, really. Nucor, many are familiar. It's, I think, number 138 on the Fortune 500 list of largest companies in the world. Did a search all over the East Coast to make their largest private investment in the history of their company in West
Wow.
Virginia. Yeah,
Wow.
and in the along the Ohio River Valley in Mason County, there's a expectation to create over 800 direct jobs and thousands of indirect jobs. And that, Evan, was sort of the catalyst for other companies to begin noticing West Virginia. When a company of that stature and magnitude does a nationwide search and selects West Virginia for all the reasons I elaborated on earlier, the great locations, the supply chain compression, the workforce, the good judicial, tax, regulatory environments. They selected West Virginia based on all those components, and frankly have been thrilled. If you would have them on your show or
Mhm.
read some of their comments, they say, frankly, they've encountered no state in which their business model has been so embraced. And then just recently, Berkshire Hathaway
Mhm.
decided to locate in West Virginia in a facility that had been previously an aluminum plant that had been shuttered for 20 years, frankly. And
Wow.
they purchased the facility, and that one is an amazing story. It's going to be completely powered. They're going to build a titanium aerospace manufacturing plant, the most advanced one in the world, and
Wow.
power it completely with renewable energy. Uh, and it is so near and dear to me because I was raised in Jackson County, as you talked about,
Mhm.
and my father, my grandfather, on my mother and my father's side, worked at that plant that was shut.
Wow. Wow.
And to see it come back and you know and provide good, great middle class jobs for a new generation of West Virginians is so heartening to me and to the community and the state and the region. So we're so excited about that, and I could go on. Just last week, we announced a great product, a great company, Form Energy, located in
Mm.
Boston, will build their first manufacturing plant in West Virginia, employ 750 people along that
Wow.
weird. Yeah. And so it's just a plethora of great companies deciding on West Virginia for all the reasons that we've elaborated.
And it's not just companies, it's actual people who are
Yeah.
benefiting from the state and the trend towards remote work, working from home, working from anywhere. And indeed, my personal assistant, Hanaya, she lives from West Virginia in Charleston, recent graduate, and fantastic. And she doesn't need to be here in Boston because of broadband, because of
Yeah.
staying close to home. But tell us about the remote work trend that we're in, and how you've managed to capture
Yeah.
this opportunity for the state.
Well, thank you. There's been a couple of things that have really energized that aspect of our working environment. Is obviously everyone knows about the pandemic and how people were forced to, basically work from home, and the requirements of that are great broadband
Mhm.
connectivity. So West Virginia has devoted $1 billion, pledged $1 billion. Governor Justice has toward broadband expansion and
Wow.
improvements, and we're already well into that program. Uh, And the other thing that's really energized even prior to the pandemic, Brad and Elise Smith, the former president of an Intuit corporation,
Right.
many of your
Hmm.
viewers and listeners will be familiar. Now the president of Marshall University has funded an initiative called Ascend West Virginia. You can go to the websites and your different social media platforms to find Ascend West Virginia that provides uh, incentives for individuals to locate in West Virginia and work remotely. And Evan, from the moment we introduced that, there have been so many applications for those spots that are available. It has a great incentive package. There's $12,000 in direct payments. There's outdoor passes, recreation passes throughout the state for an incredible long period of time. There's community orientation towards assuring that these workers are integrated into local communities. And people are flocking to that website and filling out applications. In fact, I think we've had over like 80,000 or 100,000
Wow.
applications for just a few spots. And so it's been a really successful program, and I would encourage your listeners to go check it out and live and work in West Virginia because you can do so, from and work for anyone essentially, and be in the beauty of this mountain state.
The beauty, and let's face it, the costs of
Yeah,
land, the cost of housing, the cost of frankly everything is so less. I mean, what the cabin that we had for over 30 years, my late father built by hand. He
oh, I
literally
love that.
built it from
Yeah.
going to the local lumber yard, and it took him 15 years to build. But
Did you have a
he
hand
did
in that
this.
building?
I was terrible. This is why I'm in tech. I cannot be trusted with a hammer. But the fact that he could buy a plot of land and just build a house
Yeah.
in a beautiful spot in the woods. I mean, you can't do that around the U.S. anymore. You can't
You you're
buy a
right. You
farm,
really can.
know.
Well, you're right. So right. People that are locating here in West Virginia, these companies, they're moving their workforces in many cases to our state, and they cannot believe the low cost of housing, the low taxes, the friendliness of the
Hmm.
people, the low crime rates, the safety, all of those things just sort of amalgamate together and make it such a wonderful place.
Yeah, Boston's a wonderful place, but the people, a little not so much. You go by a diner in West Virginia, and that waitress is going to talk to you, and you're going to have a
Yeah.
nice chat. And so let's switch gears. I'm a tech geek, of course, and broadband is a key part of what I cover and my interests. And so tell us about this rollout, which is not only turbo boosted by money, but it's also being boosted by technology investment, wired,
Yeah.
wireline, wireless, etc.
Well, thank you for the question, the opportunity to talk about broadband expansion in our state. For all the wonderful advantages that we have, one of the areas that we ranked poorly in, as any of your viewers can go see the state rankings, we were relatively low in terms of broadband speeds and connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a couple of years ago. And so we put together a plan to pull down federal funds, state funds, other matching funds, local, community, private sector to completely revamp the broadband delivery mechanism within our state.
Mm-hmm.
And Evan, one of the things you may be, as a private sector guy, very oriented towards this approach. We said from the outset that we want the private sector to run the internet in our state. Now, many states have gone down the path with utilizing these federal funds of publicly owned and operated networks, and we rejected that approach. We want to those who the last thing we want is somebody to say, I'm here from the government, I want to run your internet. And
Right.
so we're very oriented towards using the expertise in the private sector. So we structured these programs that to incentivize reaching out into the less or to the more rural areas, the less populated areas of our state, because as you know, the economic justification for expanding these networks is based on a model of how much can we, charge our customers, and how much can you offset from a cost perspective. And so we recognize that, and we provided incentives for these remote areas so that existing broadband providers can go reach those areas and provide. We only fund fiber optic to the home, minimum of gigabit speeds, and we also put in place a fixed wireless program for those very remote areas. Like if you were to put a tower behind that beautiful scenery on your screen, because running a fiber optic cable to that vista would be hard. But to provide a tower that can reach there is doable. And so we have worked with the federal government on our FCC mapping data. We were one of the first states in America to receive the broadband allocation from the federal government based on our world-class mapping data. Our mapping data, Evan, as someone who's integrated into the technology industry, is based on an address level. As you know, the FCC maps many times are census block based or other metrics. Ours are to the rooftop. And so we have excellent data that shows exactly what speeds people have in our state and when the programs that we put in place will reach them with gigabit speeds. So very excited. We've got these 4 award-winning programs in West Virginia to expand and enhance broadband.
Yeah, so important. I mean, people don't realize, from out of the state how diverse and interesting, but also challenging the landscape is, the hills and the valleys and the mountains and the villages. And I remember up in our little cabin in the woods, I mean, we had trouble sometimes getting radio, This is like FM radio. We got, so the idea of getting a signal there requires work, and you're putting in the work to get that out to the little towns and cities around the state. It's amazing.
Yeah. The first work and really, frankly, part of the hardest was mapping the state, and making sure that we knew where broadband currently exists, what speeds, what technology infrastructure was utilized. I mean, we don't want copper lines, even cable for that matter. And so we're, nothing's faster than the speed of light at this point in our physics lessons.
That is true. We're doing this over a broadband fiber as we speak. So, you're in the office, but, I'm sure you haven't kicked off full mode for 2023 yet. What are you most excited about into the new year, onwards and upwards for the state of West Virginia?
Yeah, I think we're hitting our stride right now. And we have worked for years to put West Virginia in this competitive place. And our governor is very fond of saying we're the diamond in the rough that people had missed. And now that we have the awareness of the world and the validation by world-class companies of the advantage of being in West Virginia, others are noticing. And our prospect list is full. But there's always room for more. And we have great incentive packages that we can provide. We have many, many, many advantages, and we're actively attending all the trade shows. We're touting this value proposition of West Virginia to the world. And it's being so well received. And, at the end of the day, our motivation for this is not so that we can check a box and say we've got, another company located in West Virginia. We never lose, thought that a job means a lot to an individual. A job is important for dignity, self-respect. Earned success is important. And as a person who grew up in a home that was raised by a union steelworker, I understand the value of a job, of a community that supports those jobs, and the way in which we educate our workforce, the societal benefits of work. And so we're very intent on seeing the human aspect of providing economic development and prosperity in our state. And thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about West Virginia and and share some of our success.
Well, no, thank you for joining me and sharing your vision and mission with the audience. And when it thaws out a little bit, I'm road trip down through West Virginia. Blue Ridge Mountains are some of the most beautiful landscape in the world. So,
Yeah.
well, now, what do you do when you to disconnect and to get out of the office? Maybe what's
Yeah.
what do you look forward to next
Well,
year?
obviously, family and those things are very important in our life, and I'm very active in our local community churches and so forth. But I'm also a big advocate for I like to do our outdoor activities here: biking, skiing, water and snow skiing, and just running and just family, friends, those type things. But I'm very much a sort of an outdoor fitness
Well,
advocate.
you're in the right place.
Oh,
That's
it's the
for sure.
perfect place to be. In fact,
Yeah.
I would encourage all your listeners as you get an opportunity, go to Yes West Virginia. Say, there's a LinkedIn and a Twitter site, Yes West Virginia, and you can see a lot of this information that we've shared. And again, Evan, you're a great host for these things, and I just really thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you, Secretary Carmichael. And best wishes for the new year to you and your family.
The same to you, and look forward to seeing you again in West Virginia.
All right. Thanks so much, sir. Take care,
Right.
everyone. Bye bye.